Hi friends, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. I've made a couple of videos about sovereign citizens and some of the stupid things that they do over the course of the last 2 years. And in fact, those are actually some of my most watched videos because I think a lot of people don't break it down actually from a legal point of view, and that's, of course, what I do. But every now and again, you have things that come up that illustrate that not only is the ideology a stupid ideology because it's based on nonsense, but also that it's a deadly ideology, or at least it can be. Now, the vast majority of sovereign citizens who do this so that they can put it up on a YouTube channel are just baiting the officers for clicks, and I assume that they are generating income that way. I think it's a stupid way to generate income when you have to go pay fines for being a jerk to the police. Be that as it may, the vast majority of sovereign citizens are nonviolent, but there have been instances where they have been violent. You'll recall I put a video on the channel here several months ago about a kid out in Utah who essentially drew down on 4 officers and was killed. And in addition to that, there were some officers in Wisconsin who were gunned down by a sovereign citizen. He actually set it up so that they could ambush the officers. And that's a despicable act. I don't care who you are. Those guys are out there. You may disagree on a particular ticket that you were going too fast or that you failed to make a proper lane change. You can sort that all out in court. But what you can't sort out in court is when you act violently. And that's obviously a big problem. So today, we have another example of that occurred over the weekend. And I will let my favorite sheriff in the entire world explain that for you.
It started about 12:22 this morning, Saturday morning. We've had burglaries of vehicles where people haven't locked their doors and people are flipping handles. We also recently had some burglaries at a concession stand at the Hunt Fountain Park off Duff Road in North Lakeland, which is where we are. So we had deputies assigned to the area as a hot spot, and Deputy Conover did exactly what she was supposed to be doing, checking out suspicious vehicles. The county park closes at 10 p.m. and she noticed a white vehicle here and pulled up behind it. As she approached the vehicle, she saw that there was a male in the car and he rolled the window down a small amount. And she was trying to talk to him and ask him why he was in the park, and he wouldn't cooperate. She asked him to get out of the car, and he wouldn't get out of the car. Now understand, at this point he's resisting a law enforcement officer in the performance of their duty. He's also violating a county ordinance. She retreats to her vehicle and she asks for additional backup because he is resisting her. At that time, among other deputies, Lieutenant Chad Anderson arrives and Deputy Sheriff Craig Smith. There are a total of 4 deputies and 2 trainees which are going through orientation and beginning the process to be full deputies next Monday that was working tonight. So they once again told him to get out of the vehicle. Little did they realize at that moment in time that this was a sovereign citizen. He was Moorish. And Moorish sovereign citizens are known to believe that federal law, state law, local law does not apply to them. They are known to resist law enforcement. And there is a history where they shoot police officers. So they started trying to take our suspect out of the vehicle when he produced a gun and started shooting. Lieutenant Chad Anderson was shot once in the arm, and it went through and into his chest. Our Deputy Craig Smith has 4 gunshot wounds. They went down immediately.
So after they have to get additional officers, then the guy pulls out a firearm and shoots the 2 deputies. Now, it's interesting because Grady Judd also explains what would have happened if the guy had just produced an ID and then moved along.
And it went from an interaction that at most, being in a park after 10 o'clock at night might have gotten you a warning or a civil notice. And I asked to move along because we've had problems in the area, and for you to sleep here tonight would put you at risk. So they were here not only checking out the suspiciousness of him, but they were trying to protect him in the event some of the burglars that we have been chasing around here in this area could have approached him.
Of course, he didn't do that. And this is, of course, the natural consequence of firing on law enforcement officers, and I will let Grady explain that too.
Lieutenant Anderson got some rounds off. The backup deputies shot a lot, and we don't know how much yet. We're in the initial stages of crime scene investigations, and we can report that to you later. But we killed the suspect. We killed him graveyard dead, and we killed him dead in a gunfight, a firefight with our deputies who had no idea they were dealing with anyone other than someone being in the park after the park closed, being suspicious, and resisting our efforts to identify why they were in the area. Lieutenant Chad Anderson underwent emergency surgery, and he's in critical but stable condition in intensive care. Craig Smith currently is stable and in the intensive care unit, and we have deputies assigned to them. All of this information is initial, and as you know, I release the information that we know, and it's subject to modification or change or addition later on, and that certainly will be the case now as the investigation goes on. We're not identifying the suspect at this moment because we're searching for next of kin. He appears to be living out of his vehicle. We see where another law enforcement agency had an interaction with him in another county park approximately a month ago. That's under investigation as well. We'll release information later today. But as a result of the gunfight, as a result of the suspect shooting at our deputies, striking 2 of our deputies, creating critical injuries, we shot and killed him. He chose that outcome, and we obliged him.
This is one of the reasons why I think it's really important to educate people about what their rights are and what their rights aren't. It's one of the reasons I do what I do, to try to explain to people that when you live in a civil society, you have to obey the rules. The rules are there to protect all of us. They don't just protect, one class or another. They are there to protect everybody. The people who do the job of law enforcement, by and large, are good people who are trying their best to help people. That's why they get into that particular line of work. There are a few bad apples, I will admit that, but that's what courts are for. Courts are there to address those kinds of issues. And there are organizations in every state that can discipline police officers and essentially strip them of the ability to be police officers or sheriff's deputies or whatever if they violate the rules. And I've seen those work, and they work quite well. With all that said, this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy for those sheriff's deputies. Those deputies have been wounded significantly. And television tells you, because if you've ever watched a cop show and you've seen on the cop show that the police officer got shot, usually by the end of that episode, he has his arm in a sling and he's walking around with his arm in a sling because he got shot usually in the shoulder. That is not what happens. If you get shot in the shoulder with a bullet from today, more likely than not, you're not going to be able to use that shoulder anymore. And you get shot in an arm, you're going to destroy muscle tissue, and you're not going to be able to use that arm for quite a while. And of course, by the next episode, they're back to being completely normal, which is not the way life works. And I've said that numerous times, that television gives you a distorted view both of police work as well as the courts, because if I could wrap up a case in 45 minutes, I would love to do that, but that is not the way the legal world works. I just want you, as you watch this video, to think about those officers and their families, because sometime after midnight on Saturday, those families got phone calls they wished they would never, ever receive. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. And, of course, you can always email me at the address above. If you have an opportunity today, do something kind for someone. Yesterday, I helped my daughter out at an event called the Bloom Event, and it's essentially an event that they use for to help pregnant people become aware of what they need to do and what steps to take after they have a baby and some of the services that are available to them and all that. Well, we went out there, and I demonstrated something called interactive metronome. I'm a certified interactive metronome coach. And as a result of that, we spent a long time talking to people out there. Well, we had the whole team out there from her office, and one of them didn't get there in time to order a sandwich for lunch. So I took my sandwich, cut it in half, and gave her that half. Just doing one nice thing for people, it makes you feel really good, and it makes the world a better place. So please, give that a shot. And then come on back down here tomorrow and catch me at the beach, and we'll talk about something else you might find interesting. I try very hard not to be like all those other YouTubers who open up every video by asking you to subscribe before you've even seen the content. But now that you've gone a few minutes into the content, if you find this interesting and helpful, please subscribe. I'd consider it a personal favor. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.